old this guy is that's about to join us. But it is Tom Murphy's birthday, and the reason that we know that is because, Tom, one of your high school teammates at Smackover High School, Mr. Brian Wilson, called and wanted to wish you a happy birthday. So how old are we today, Mr. Murphy?
Wow, man. That's pretty cool of Brian. He was a grade below me. He played quarterback. And his cousin was the quarterback of the team the year before. So that's how tight-knit we were at Smackover. And I'm going to be like a woman. I'm not going to tell you my age. I'm just old. I'm an old man.
Tom, what did you play?
44 again.
What did you play in high school? I did the flag football thing with the media a couple years back. And you were one of the standouts. What did you play everywhere in high school?
Well, I was a running back in junior high, and then I got up to senior high, and we had really good running backs. We had an all-state guy named Greg Bussell. But I made my mark at linebacker. Me and Greg Bussell were linebackers in a 50 defense. And our D lineman did a great job of tying up blockers, and Greg and I made a bunch of tackles. So, and then my senior year, they moved me to cornerback for part of the year. And then late in the season, for our playoff push, I went back to linebacker. So, mostly defense. I was also the lead punt returner. So,
let's go.
Smackover was a small school, as you can imagine.
Played a lot of different positions. Tom, of course, now writes for Whole Hog Sports in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette covering the Razorbacks. Tom, before we jump into the Fayetteville Regional, which starts tomorrow, I know one of the things you've probably been paying to additionally is this conversation in the SEC spring meetings. Brian Kelly is pushing for a 9-game SEC schedule and a Big Ten opponent with that Big Ten alliance. What do you think is going to ultimately shake out with the scheduling and the possibility of the partnership with the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference in football moving forward?
You know, that's a great question. And I saw that clip, and I'm thinking, good gosh, a mandatory 9-game SEC schedule, a 9-game SEC schedule and a mandatory Big Ten game, that's just tough. I mean, that's tough for Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, South Carolina. You kind of go through the list of teams that are trying to get bowl eligible every year. And so, you know, LSU, like the caller before me said, it was you making the point, Ty, that LSU's not in position to, you know, they've been losing 3-4 conference games the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what direction they'll eventually, but to have 10 of your 12 games accounted for every year just seems like you're going to short some of the teams near the bottom of your standings of some potential wins. And, I mean, there's already the mandatory rule you have to play a Power 5 opponent. I guess it's Power 4 now. But I don't know. I don't mind matching up with the Big Ten every year, but I don't know about the 9-game SEC schedule. I wish they'd keep it at 8.
It seems a bridge too far. Again, Tom Murphy with us here on the Lewis Automotive Group Hotline, Whole Hog Sports, and the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, what are we going to call the stadium this fall, man? It sounds like, according to some comments made by Hunter Yurachek, that this deal might get done relatively soon. I know your colleague Christina Long wrote about it in Whole Hog Sports, and I was reading a little bit about it this morning. This was one of those things where I guess they just kept the name this past year in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. They've hired an outside party to maybe get someone to buy this. Looks like a 10-year deal possibility. What do we are we thinking we're going to hear about something in the next month or so before the season begins on August 30th?
I would think that if it's that close that they're going to come up with some kind of a deal, and you'd want it to be on the stadium for this fall. But it's interesting, that the previous Reynolds deal lapsed and it just kind of stayed the same. And we've kept writing Reynolds Razorback Stadium and all our stuff, even though the naming rights were gone. So I guess maybe a little gesture on University of Arkansas's behalf to keep it. I am not sure, but there's certainly some big companies around here who, Walmart and Tyson and J.B. Hunt and all those brands that could certainly pony up the money and have it done.
Yeah, and, that's part of, we've been talking about the different gaps. I know they're doing the SEC meetings down in Destin right now, but, this 9-game schedule could enhance each team in the league's revenue from the TV partners like $4 or $5 million a year. When you start talking about this $23 to $25 million revenue gap with revenue sharing and the additional scholarships, that's kind of how, for Arkansas, you piece it together, right? $5 million there, maybe, I don't know what the naming rights will be, but man, if you could get $5 million a year for that, what would it be worth? I don't know. That's the way they're going to bridge that gap from a financial standpoint, Tom.
They're going to have to do things just like that to make up the difference in how much is going to go out in revenue sharing. I mean, Hunter Yurchek was pretty, outspoken when we talked to him on the first leg of the One Razorback Roadshow up in Bentonville about how they've had to freeze raises and freeze merit raises and all that kind of stuff. And, it's tough decisions that they had to make to be able to do this. And so anything you can do to ease that, getting naming rights for your stadium and all that kind of stuff, and maybe at some point Arkansas has to bite the bullet and vote for a 9-game conference schedule to bring more revenues in. Even though it hurts your competitiveness, it might be the things they have to do to be financially viable to run with the Joneses in the SEC, so to speak.
My God, what would a 10-win season do for them? That in the perspective of being able to raise ticket prices, increase donations, they need a couple of winning seasons to really get the maximum value financially of what they need out of the football tickets that they're not reaping right now, and the only way you're going to get it is to win consistently.
Yeah, you are, and they're a team to me that you can't afford injury. That they're going to be thinner than most of their SEC compadres. So many issues they got to work out. What the receiving core is going to look like. I have pretty good faith their run game is going to be okay. Between Talon and Braylon Russell and Washington, I think they're going to have a nice punch in the run game, and they think they're going to be a better run blocking team. But so many different things they've got to work out. Their D line is not going to be as deep as some other teams. So, and a challenging schedule to boot. So this is going to be a real crucible type year here in Fayetteville.
All right, Tom, Fayetteville Regional, people lined up already outside of Baum-Walker Stadium, Hogman, 2 o'clock tomorrow. See if they play at 2 or 8 on Saturday, then also on Sunday as well. We're kind of talking about a little earlier with Mike Rooney and just the setup with Kansas, Creighton, and also North Dakota State this weekend. This team's the best hitting team in not just the SEC, but in baseball at times this year. Bats have gone cold before. What are you expecting from this baseball team just hitting this weekend? The consistency, do we see it?
Well, I mean, that's the million-dollar question, and that's what's prevented them from moving on. Hagen Smith has not had good outings he did not have good outings against TCU a couple years ago and then Kansas State last year. And here comes another Big 12 team that, they swept West Virginia on the road to complete the regular season. And they have the same differences between wins and losses. It's just that Kansas played 2 more games than West Virginia, and it came down to percentages on who was the number 1 seed for their tournament. But it was a virtual tie atop the Big 12. So they're hot right now, and I haven't studied real deep into their pitching staff. I'm going to be doing that today, but certainly a dangerous team. And then North Dakota State, plucky, scrappy, all that stuff applies to them, even though they have a 20-32 record. And then Creighton, they're used to winning. They won both the Big East regular and tournament, and have a lot of good talent on their roster. So by no means is this a walkover, but if Arkansas plays near its peak, pitches okay, they're going to have more pitching depth, more high-end velocity arms, and a bigger array of hitters than the other teams, and they should win their own regional.
Tom, is there a player under the radar? Like, it's easy to say Zach Root or Vahiva Loy have to have a big series for Arkansas to advance. Is there a guy that you've looked at and say, man, if they can get a little more out of this dude, they're going to move on to next weekend?
Well, I haven't studied it like that, but I'll say this. Logan Maxwell, once he got through the hamstring, he's been hitting pretty well, and he hits in the 3-hole. And so if he has a good weekend, I think that bodes well. The Aloy brothers, it seems to me like there's been an uptick in strikeouts in recent games the last couple of weeks. Sometimes when they start pressing too hard and, guessing and wanting to hit one out of the park, they wind up with the pitches that they're fishing for. So I would say somebody like Logan Maxwell and then like Iredale, deeper in the lineup. If those two can deliver, then you're going to have some punch, early in the lineup and then kind of deeper, that it's going to help them. And then, of course, Ryder Helfrich's had a really good conference season. So, to me, there's so much depth of hitting on this team. If they can get about 4 or 5 different guys hot over the weekend, I don't think anybody can stop them.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the weather doesn't play a factor in the regional this weekend, but I think we're probably wishing in one hand, and we'll see which hand fills up faster, because I think weather is going to be a factor this weekend, Tom.
Oh, my gosh. They have been dealing with that so many weeks in a row now. It feels like, having to schedule doubleheaders and things like that. And I felt so bad for the softball team last weekend that there was so much rain that, they had to move the first one up, and then it didn't really rain that day. And I don't know, just felt bad that Courtney Doffel and them, and they had some food poisoning with their best pitchers, and the circumstances didn't work out. And they've been denied yet again.
Yeah. Tom, happy birthday, and we'll catch up with you on Tuesday. We'll know the outcome of the regional by then.
All right, man. It sounds like a plan. See y'all.
All right,
Happy birthday,
boy.
buddy.
The birthday boy.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing and we're into the NBA and NHL playoffs, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NBA, NHL, and UFC, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.